Welcome to Golf Business Live, powered by Club Caddy. Here's NGCOA CEO Jay Caron and owner of Augusta Ranch Golf Club and secretary of the PGA of America, Don Ray.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's welcome to Golf Business Live, June 2021. Mr. Don Ray, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I played some golf this morning, growing the game.
Fantastic, contributing to the golf economy, because I'm sure it was not a comped round, right?
Hey, I tipped everybody. It was a comp round, but I made sure everybody got tipped, which is even better.
Well, excellent. It's good to hear. Well, again, welcome everybody. I'm Jay Caron, CEO of the National Golf Course Owners Association, and with me is my compatriot Don Ray, owner of Augusta Ranch Golf Club in Mesa, Arizona, secretary of the PGA of America. Don, I got to warn you, I'm highly caffeinated today. I didn't sleep well last night, so this could be an interesting show because we got some really fun stuff to talk about. A real inspiring, interesting guest. And before we get to some of that, I certainly want to know how things are in Mesa, Arizona. If you're there, does your wife even see you anymore?
I just got back from a family trip, spent Father's Day with my wife and my daughter. So all is good there. We were in California, but yeah, we did get some family time in the week before that. But right now I'm in Atlanta for the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. Excited to be here. The golf course, the Atlanta Athletic Club, is just in an amazing shape. And I do have to tell you, yesterday I was lucky enough to play in the Pro-Am. And our LPGA professional was Gabby Ruffles. And she's only been playing golf, Jay, for 6 years.
Wow.
6 years, and now she's on the tour as a professional golfer. She was an outstanding tennis player. And then that's all she played, though. And she was looking at some point to get out of tennis. She kind of got burned out a little bit. And she was winning championships in Australia. And she just got into golf and found her thing, right? It's make golf your thing. She found her thing. And wow, was she amazing. And I'm telling you, anybody out there, it's I think sometimes the men out there, they want to watch the PGA Tour, and I get it because, Bryson's hitting it super far. But to see Gabby work her game and to know, those swing speeds that the LPGA Tour players have, they're pretty similar, really, to a lot of amateurs out there. But they're getting more out of their game. They're getting more yardage out of the game. They're doing more, and they're scoring better, with those low swing speeds. So everybody's all transfixed on the highest swing speeds and hitting it like Bryson or something. It's not about that. And I'd really encourage everybody to watch the KPMG this weekend. I think it's going to be a great contest, and certainly it's going to be competitive. And the way Kerry Haig sets up championships, I know there's going to be some drama on Sunday. But as far as I was in Mesa for one day, I cut a bunch of checks and put out a couple fires. I'll tell you what, golf is still booming. Obviously, it's the summer and it's gone down a little bit. And I think I might have mentioned this last week, but last month, I am telling all my golf professionals to get out of the golf shop, go play golf with these people who are kicking the tires on our sport, picking up baskets on the range. I'll say it. If I said it last month, I'm going to say it again now. I'm telling you, get your golf professionals out of the shop, picking up baskets on the range, starting conversations with these new golfers, because they're out there playing right now. Even when it's 1:15 in Phoenix, there are people out there who are just getting really they're catching that shot euphoria, right, Jay? So golf's still healthy, but if we're going to leverage this newfound demand, we're going to have to do it by relationships, and that is getting our golf professionals out of the shops and onto the tee and onto the first tee.
Excellent. No, what great advice. Yeah, I mean, there's this. It's like the pendulum swinging the other way, because we've talked in the industry about how that's the way it used to be, right? That the professionals played with the members and the customers, and that's why it was important to have PGA professionals and golf professionals at your club to do these things. And then there's been a lot of criticism over the years that we got them all behind the counter. They're bean counters. They're working in the software systems and have their heads in spreadsheets maybe, and not really out there building relationships. And so I'm seeing the pendulum start to swing the other way, and I think that's a really good thing. Obviously, it's got to be in the middle somewhere for it all to work, because you still have administration to do. You can't leave it all behind. But where's the room for those relationship, building opportunities?
Yeah, and you might have to create them. I no doubt. I think LPGA, PGA professionals running golf courses across the nation, all our NGCOA members, right, that are out there. You still got to manage the business. You know what I mean? You can manage the business by walking around like Rock Lucas and I always say, But you certainly got to be smart with your budgets and your needs and your wants and your capital expenditures right now. Everybody's got a little money in the bank. They should be doing some capital expenditures. How do you triage those to make sure you're actually addressing the things that the golfers care about and not just something you care about? Sometimes we get stuck on that, right? And fixing the stuff that bothers us. Does it bother your golfers? Maybe it's another thing. Maybe it's that wet spot on the left 13 that drives your golfers nuts and you've never fixed it because you're working on other things. Maybe fix the things that, that ladies group and men's group are complaining about. It's that'll actually help you at the bank.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, for the audience, don't forget, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, submit your questions in the comments area of your chosen channel, and we'll try to get to them before our time is up, certainly, whether the questions for Don, myself, or our honored guest here soon. So a couple of industry questions for you, Don. Industry issues. I want to offer big congrats to Alyssa and Women's Golf Day for having some record numbers earlier this month around the world. It's just great to see the success of that and the snowballing effect. I know she works incredibly hard on pulling that together for this one-day event across the globe. Over 1,000 facilities participated, and she won our Player Development Award a few years ago. So it's always great to support and see her success. So that was great. It was great to see. I do want to mention, though, before we get into some other stuff, there was an article that we published in Golf Business Weekly last week or the week before from Harvey Silverman, our good friend. And he was shining some light on some research from an industry brain. His name is Mike Dickoff, who does a lot of research in our industry, and he's got Apparition, I think, is the name of the company. And so there was a stat that what Mike does is that he scours the internet and looks at basically every golf course website, public golf courses especially, like every golf course website, to try to ascertain what booking engine they're using or what software system they're using to try to understand market share of these players and how things are moving around. And the shocking stat was that, and Taylor, if you don't mind bringing it up here, and I'll talk as it shows, but that 18-hole regulation public golf courses, about 7,000 courses in that sense, that 26% of them do not have online booking at all. You can't book a tee time online. You look at 9-hole regulation, 77% do not have online booking. And then you can see the others, the executive par 3, pitch and putt. Okay, so I'm a little shocked by that. I did not think it would be that high. Maybe I'm, I don't know why I'm so shocked, but what do you think this is? Do you think that do you think it could be that just folks that are happy with the level of business they have and just don't see the need to change because whatever level of business they're doing checks all the boxes for them? Or is it maybe some of these folks have never actually seen a demo of online tee times and what it looks like, because sometimes your eyes are opened when you see it in action. You're like, holy cow, what have I been missing out on, or what could this help me? So Don, what is your take on that? I mean, why is it still, with 2021, we're still so high that online bookings aren't even available on 26% of public golf courses?
I know that's amazing, right? I think it's the former. I think they don't know what they don't know. I mean, even right now, for those that are online, say, did you have a good year? I mean, COVID, did you raise your rates? Oh yeah, we're doing great. So you dynamically price your tee sheet, right? You raise the rates for certain times that are more in demand. No, but we're killing it because we raised our rates across the board. They have no idea how much they're leaving on the table because they're not revenue managing. So I think it's the same thing. You get used to your paper tee sheet and just think, well, I'm sold out. I'm doing all right. Everything's fine. But what if you could do better? And there's nothing to do with greed. It's about putting money back onto the golf course, right? And making sure it's better. And that's what really scares me. I think about make golf your thing and what we're trying to do with the PGA and collectively with all the associations, NGCOA, LPGA, right, the USGA, PGA Tour. It's amazing. But when people are looking for a golf course, they're not taking a Sunday drive and just seeing what's around the corner. They are going online to see where they want to play. And so if we're going to gather all these people and show them what's great about golf, and your golf course isn't at least on the internet, you're not going to get any new golfers. And believe me, you need new golfers, because some of those golf courses that are busy right now, they're busy with boomers. And boomers are going away. Sorry, that's the way it goes. And so if you're not enticing some of this younger generation, you are going to miss out, and you might be dead man walking. You just don't know it yet. You think you're healthy, but you're not, because you're not ready for the next the next dip in rounds or whatever it might happen. So, man, that's scary. But those point of sale companies, they're pretty aggressive out there. I'm surprised if nobody's seen it. But I think that they just don't return the phone call, right? Because that golf course owner's like, I'm all right with my paper tee sheet.
Yeah, there's a point in which there's a certain number of businesses where it adds to the charm factor, like the restaurant that only takes cash still, and it's a line out the door, and it's the best cheap little burger you've ever had, and no, we don't even take credit cards here, kind of thing. There's an element of vintage charm to some of that, but if you're not in that category, if you're not a golf course that is, one of those special places kind of thing, then it's detracting from your ability to do more business. And I say you meet the customer where they are. That's what you're saying. It's like, this is where the customer is. Meet them where they are. And you can't pick up your golf course and literally move it to where they are, where your customers are, but you can pick up the booking side of it and move it to where they are. And that's online, in social, everywhere, everywhere online. And one thing that I think Harvey mentioned in his article is that, one of the real problems is that there is a problem around America where you can't get broadband access or you can't get decent internet access. So there's going to be a certain percentage of those that have unreliable, they might have internet, but it's so unreliable that it makes for a bad customer experience or bad business experience. And so they make the calculation say it's not worth it yet, so, but that's probably still a small amount, of the total, I would imagine.
Yeah. There's still AT&T and Verizon are working hard to make sure that we all got some kind of broadband. I know they're doing a pretty good job at that. I really think it's just, they can, like I said, they're happy with what they have.
Yeah. And
that's dangerous. That's what Kodak did, and they went out of business almost, right? I mean, so you can't stick to the old, you got to roll to the new.
Yeah. Just a couple other housekeeping things on NGCOA here, Don. I want the audience to know. Is we actually just today released a new publication called So You Want to Own a Golf Course. And it's about a 60-page digital book that you can go to ngcoa.org and download a free copy, anybody out there in the world. And it's kind of an unvarnished look at what it means to own a golf course. And we had some, some great golf business magazine writers, and Chuck Bunnell from Ohio, who's a member of NGCOA for decades, really help, with the content. A lot of interviews with people in the industry about, what it really means to own a golf course. It's a good hard look into the various businesses you're in, the kinds of financing you need to get, the kinds of golf courses that there are out there. What kind of person are you, and what kind of business are you getting into? What are you really getting into? And I really like this, that we've published this. I was a little shocked that it's been a long time since we had published anything quite like this. So it's a bit of a primer for aspiring golf course owners, and we're gonna have this out there on our shelf for a long time, I think, and make sure that it's a great resource for people thinking about owning a golf course. I would imagine a lot of PGA professionals out there that are probably dreaming one day about owning their own golf course, and folks like you and others contributed to this book and reviewed it for us to make sure that we were accurate in the description and painting the picture of what it means to own a golf course. So,
I love that you guys did that. Yeah. Love that you did it, Jay. Yeah, thanks for doing that. I think it's going to be great for the industry.
So that's one thing. I also want to remind folks that while we're still kind of living in this COVID economic environment, that we launched a partnership with Rockerbox, a company that will help our members get their employee retention tax credit for those that saw a drop in business in 2020 over 2019, that you may qualify for a hell of a lot of money sitting on the table in the form of a tax credit, and that we've got a partnership to help you apply for that and get that. Obviously you got to qualify for it, but it's an important thing out there. People focus on the PPP money forever. Some people overlook this tax credit that could be tens of thousands to the bottom line, or even hundreds of thousands based on the size of your business, actually. So let's make sure that if you're an NGCOA member, check it out. Go to ngcoa.org. And the last thing I want to do is, we mentioned in a link in the last Golf Business Weekly, just want to shout out to Elaine Gebhardt, who runs the New England Golf Course Owners Association. Great story there about her doing the 100-hole challenge to raise money for Golf Fights Cancer. She's done that for several years now, but she herself, fought and beat cancer this past winter. And so, there's certainly a different take on it when you've gone through it yourself. And she was able to recover, and she's doing well. And she did the 100-hole challenge not long ago. So check out your Golf Business Weekly edition. Look for the link to check out the story on Elaine. There's a nice YouTube video about it. She's just an awesome person. So we're glad that she's healthy and doing well.
She is awesome. I gave to her 100 hole. But I feel like you're avoiding something, Jay. Is there something you're not bringing up? I mean, this happens all the time when someone takes a PAT. If they pass it, they tell you right away. If they don't pass it, then they don't bring it up. So,
okay.
What happened there, champ?
Thank you, Don. Last month, I mentioned to our viewers and to the industry that I was going to be taking the PAT in part of the process of becoming a member of the PGA of America. Well, I took the PAT last week, a week ago Monday. And let me set the stage a little bit for those that don't really understand what that is. You have this requirement called the playing ability test, and the score that you have to hit, it varies a little bit based on the difficulty of the course you're playing. But for me, I was playing Kiowa's Oak Point, and I have to play 36 holes in one day. I have to wear pants. I got to talk to the PGA of America about that. 92 degrees out of Kiowa. Oh, it was a long day out there. But my score I had to hit was 156, right? So whether it's 78, 78, 76, 80, whatever, by the end of the day, 156 is the number I got to hit. And from what I understand, about 80% of the guys that take the PAT for the first time do not pass it on the first time, right? So the odds were against me in passing the first time. Speaking of odds being against me, I had a little wager with 4 of my board members. And that the loser of the wager would pay up to the Jeff Musser Foundation, a charity very important to our board president. And these 4 board members who will remain nameless all bet against me that I would pass the PAT. Right now, I gotta say, all 4 of these board members have seen me play golf, so that's one thing, multiple times. And they are playing the odds. When the odds are 4-1 against me that I'm going to pass the first time, I got to say, I understand. I mean, was I crestfallen a little bit? Yeah. But I do get it. You're playing the numbers. So I'll say that. I'll set the stage there going into this. So I go out to Kiowa on Monday, June 14th, I believe it was, and playing that golf course, again, I've played it a few times in preparation. I worked my tail off on my short game, Don, leading up to this for weeks and weeks. And by the way, I haven't had this much fun playing golf and prepping for something since I was a kid. So, I mean, prepping for this goal, which is a high hurdle to cross, I was out of the golf course a ton the last 2 or 3 months, and I just kind of found this renewed passion for it when I really was dialing in and trying to improve my game. And I really enjoyed it. And I've been a pretty good golfer most of my life, but I had never worked this hard on my game in my life. And I'm 47 and a half, thinking, all right, let's go for it. So I get out to Kiowa, and I definitely brought up the age factor by at least 15 to 20 years, just looking at these guys that are out there. But we're all in this together. We're not playing each other. We're all trying to go after and beat this number. And I will say this too, Don, that every PGA professional I talked to, their advice going into this was, do not think about your score as you're playing. Just play good golf. Don't think about, if I birdie this hole and get ahead, or if I bogey, I still got some room to get to this number, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, if every one of them says that, there's something to it. All right, I'm going to try that. But also, the whole objective is to play against a number. So it's hard not to think about the number when that's the total objective, is to beat that number. So, all right, that's kind of going into it. So the first 18 that we played, I shot 75. So I shot 3 over. And I know, and I remember texting my wife and saying, all right, I had about a 25-minute break before starting the second 36. So not much of a break. And I texted her and said, okay, all I got to do is hit 81 on the second 18, which I'm not, John, I wasn't feeling super confident, like cocky. I'm just thinking, I'm playing steady Eddie golf. And I was not paying attention to my score, but we had to sign scorecards and turn them in. So I knew that I shot a 75, and I'm ahead of pace as to what I need to be. But again, I'm not feeling cocky because I know this game very well. All right, so we start the third 9. So, the second 18 here. And I, at hole number 8, I'm 3 over on that first 9. I birdie number 9. So I end up 2 over on that third 9. So I'm total of 5 over for the day, going into the final 9. And I remember in retrospect, 12 over is my max, and I'm 5 over. And I don't haven't done the calculation, Don, going into the final 9. I just know that I've got some room. I just know I've got a few strokes somewhere in there. I couldn't believe I actually mentally blocked out my number, but I did. So number 10 on that final 18, final 9. Number 10, I bogey. Number 11, I bogey. Number 12, I bogey. I'm like, I'm not actually getting nervous because I'm not hitting the ball poorly. I just didn't get up and down very well. So I was like, all right, okay, I'm not feeling bad. Then I get on the par train and I par 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Okay. So now I'm going into hole 18, which is a long par 4. And I know again that I've got some room, but I don't know if is it 3 strokes that I got some room here? Is it 5 strokes? I really don't know. I'm playing well. The 2 guys I played with, their wheels fell off, in that second 18, and they were out by the 18th hole. And so Taylor, bring up my screen. So what I want to show you here, this is the 18th hole at Oak Point.
I can't wait to see this.
Okay, so all right, so I had not been driving the ball exceptionally well all day, but well enough to keep it in play and shoot the numbers I've been shooting. It was good. All right, so this is about a 390-yard par 4, and the wind's blowing about 10 to 15 miles an hour off the Kiowa River that you can see on the right side. So kind of a treacherous hole when you're standing here. So here I am. The tee box is back here on the left. I get up there, last drive of the day. I shoot it probably 285 down the middle. It was the best drive I had all freaking day. 36 hole. It was awesome, right? So I'm like, oh man, that felt so good. So now I get up here and I'm standing on 113 yards to the pin. Pin's front tier right about here. And the wind's kind of blowing a little bit, 10, 15 miles an hour, right to left, maybe a little bit against me. And, I've been hitting my 9-iron all day between about 125, 130, just nice, soft little 9-irons. And I thought, should I hit my wedge here, my 9-iron? And my caddy and I decided on the 9-iron because I'd hit it all day, hadn't hit my wedge all day. And I had a little wind. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. Well, I forgot about my adrenaline pumping. This is my last approach shot all day long. And I hit it squarely. And it lands, it's a little bit of a draw, lands up here right above the trap on the left. Okay, so that's where I'm lying in 2. I'm thinking, all right, I'm not in the water, which is right here. That's kind of a treacherous look when you're standing where I am. There's kind of a moat that runs here. And there's a retaining wall that goes around this green, about a 4-foot wooden retaining wall that you can see from here. So the visual here is actually pretty treacherous because I got a small green complex, 2 traps, water, and I pull it a little left. I'm thinking, okay. So now I'm going to move on to the green complex. So here we are. All right. So let me get my editing tool. Okay. All right. So, I know, right? All right. So I'm up here in 2. When I walk up to my ball, Don Ray, the ball is sitting in a divot. Okay. It's not only sitting in a divot, it's sitting in a divot that is running perpendicular to my line. So someone decided, along the line the last few days to take a chunk out of the divot or take a chunk, a frustrating chunk, whatever it was. In my 35 years of playing golf, I have never had this shot in my life. So in this moment, this is probably the most difficult shot of my life because here I am, I got to get it over this trap, which slopes downward to the green, which slopes downward. And this is actually a pretty small complex right here. And I'm looking at the marsh in the background. Okay. So I'm like, all right, I guess. And I had not been thinking about my score all day long. My strategy was think about the shot that you have and play the best shot that you can play. And that's it. So here I am looking at this, thinking, I know I got some room in my strokes. I'm feeling okay. Just get a good club on it. Well, I did get a club on it. And so, and I sculled it out of the rough here. And I hit it to right about here. Not too bad, okay? I'm thinking, all right. And I hadn't had a crappy shot all day, and I'm not going to blame myself too much for that because I had never had that shot in my life. Okay, there we go. And I did not read the PGA.com, coach's video on how to hit that shot, right? So here I am. I'm lying 3 now, and all I got to do is punch it right up to where the pin is right here. This was my only bad shot of the day. This was my brain fart. And by the way, the nerves are starting to get to me. So I hit it. I scull another one up to the back of the trap here. All right. And I stopped counting where I am, but I just think, oh man. And by the way, these traps were hard and wet, like cement, because it rained in Charleston for 3 days and they weren't really very well raked. And I'm like, all right, again, back of the trap, front downward slope to a to a green sloping downward. I'm like, all right, just give it the best shot I can give. Okay, here we go. I blasted out of the sand trap into the freaking marsh. Okay. And I'm thinking, I'm in the marsh, I'm dead, I'm going to have to drop. And one of my playing partners just says, and I'm like, oh my God, the wheels are falling off. I'm crapping the bed here. One of my players says, hey, Jay, I think the ball's in some turf down here, or it's on some grass. I'm thinking marsh grass. I'm going to have a crappy shot. I go down there, and if you see right here, there's a little patch of turf at the bottom of the retaining wall. And it's sitting up actually on a nice little piece of turf, but I'm 3 feet from the retaining wall. And I'm staring at a 4-foot high retaining wall in front of me. All right. So I get my lob wedge out, which I haven't hit all day. I hadn't hit my lob wedge once, but I got to because the 56 degree I'd just been hitting was cursed, obviously, because I sculled 3 shots. So I get a lob wedge out, and I put it up there to about 8 feet from the pin. It was actually a pretty good shot. Don't know what I lie. Don't know anything. Okay, so I putt it. I barely missed the putt to the right, 3-inch tap in, and I get a snowman, right? That all adds up to an 8. And when I scored it all at the very end, I was 8 over going into 18, quadrupled for the 12 over total 156. Oh my God, it was.
Golf's the greatest game ever. If golf isn't the greatest game, I need to know what it is, because there's nothing like when your heart starts racing and you just want to get off the golf course and you can't call a timeout. There's no timeout.
No, and everybody was watching. My caddy said, Jay, after I blasted out of the bunker, everybody around me turned white as ghosts. Because they were watching this in slow motion happen, right? And all right, so I've got some lessons learned here that I want to share before we bring in our guests. Number one is the value of a great caddy. Corey McAuliffe, a kid that worked at NGCOA for a couple summers, when I'd have a mediocre or a shot I wasn't happy with, man, he kept me thinking positively. So that was awesome. Number two is always know where you stand. Going into the 18th hole, know where you stand. Because here's why. Don, if I had calculated that I was 8 over and I had 4 strokes to spare, in that moment, that if I'm thinking, hey, if I get an 8 or better here, I would have totally changed strategies. I would have taken my putter out. I would have gone for the 6, not the 4. I would take my putter out, just putt it really hard to the bottom of the green or the front of the green and go for the 5 or 6, because that's all I needed. And I wasn't thinking like that, right? So I'm like, oh man. So if I could do it over again, that's what I would have done. When you're in a difficult spot, make sure you do look at all your options, because I didn't. I thought I got to put a good club on this. That's my only option, right? And then lastly, I would say is the story of saving for a rainy day. Because boy, did I save over the course of 35 holes. I played steady Eddie, put some strokes away, and I needed them that last hole. Oh my God, it was dramatic, So anyway, that's my lessons learned for the audience. Yeah. Oh.
Hey, congratulations. It's a big deal. I mean, it's hard to do. Like you said, 80% of the people who take it the first time don't pass it. And it's just a crushing thing. I passed mine on my first try. And I think it was just because I was a little ignorant to the gravity of it all, right? I was like, hey, if I pass it, great. I was an umpire in professional baseball, right? So I just figured if I pass it, great. But it's pressure, especially, towards the end. So I don't know. I think you should have known where you stood. But it also can get in your head. But yeah, I think anybody, you watch tournaments every Saturday and Sunday, right? And you have to know where you stand, because you might hit hybrid off the tee instead of driver, just in case. So, yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you learned. And now I'm curious to see your journey as it begins. And
I'll report on my journey. I'm now going to be an associate member, and then I'll go through my education. And then once I complete my education, I'll be a Class A member. Again, I'm going through the golf administrator membership category. I don't plan on leaving NGCOA and working at a club or a course. That's not the plan here. The plan is that I can really go through the curriculum, understand, how rigorous it is, report what I'm seeing to my audience, all the good stuff, and then also talk to the PGA executives about, hey, do you think about this? Maybe owners, could see a little bit more of this in the curriculum or education, and they're all for it. They're like, this is great. So I look forward to the journey. But So without further ado, let's get that dramatic
Yes,
story
we got to
behind
bring
me.
Jim on. I
Yeah,
came to
okay,
this
so we
show
got-
to talk to Jim. I mean, come on.
We have with us, we're bringing onto the show here, Mr. Jim Beatty. Taylor, bring him up. Jim, there you are. How are you, sir?
Fine and fascinated with your story. Congratulations on it. I feel much better about my game listening to your story.
You know, I obviously still haven't gotten over the drama of that because I'm reliving it in my head. And man, someone said to me the other day, how would you have felt if you'd missed it by one? And until that got brought up to me the other day, I hadn't even thought about that. I couldn't imagine the drive home with Corey, how quiet that car would have been for, the 36-mile drive home. Thinking, oh my God, I missed it. I really messed it up. Oh my, I can't even think about it. But anyway, so Jim, great to have you on the show. For our audience, Jim, I've known Jim for a number of years now mostly through We Are Golf. And Jim has been on the diversity task force. We'd see each other at PGA shows and we become friends in the industry, and now we're working together on a few things. But Jim is best known in our industry for being the executive editor of African-American Golfers Digest magazine. He's also president of Jim Beatty Golf Ventures, which helps entities with fundraising, PR, media, and other strategies in the golf industry. He's been president of NCS International for many, many years, which in his day job, I guess, is in site selection and economic development consulting. And he is now the founder of the African-American Golf Expo and Forum, which is coming up in Atlanta in August. And so, man, this guy is wearing many hats. He's a good friend of mine, and we're bringing him on to the show to talk about a few things. But welcome to the show, Jim.
Well, thank you, Jay and Don, for having me. I look forward to talking with you gentlemen and to the audience. Appreciate it.
You got it. I got to say, one of the most consequential things that I've seen you do over the past few years was your article in your magazine. I believe it was called "We Are Not Golf Yet." Cool. And obviously it's a play off the words, We Are Golf. Yes. And what and what the obviously the most important thing that you put the light on, if you will, was that the leadership around the golf industry, in particular boards and C-suite kind of positions, that is essentially 95, 97% male and white. In the leadership, at the leadership table. And I remember, because I know you personally, and I could almost feel off the pages of that how painful it was for you to even write that. I mean, you have an obligation to dive into this issue. We all have an obligation, but I could say, I could see the cognitive dissonance between your love of the game and love of the industry and this reality. So, why did you write that piece?
Well, you and Don actually referred to that already. It's a matter of knowing where you are, right? So knowing where we are in the industry, we being African Americans in the industry, and certainly I was curious about it. But secondly, the industry for years has been talking about growing the game, and all of us want to see the game grow. And how does the game grow? Well, people make decisions about that growth. And who are the people that make those decisions? Well, I start scratching my head. Well, who are they? And clearly it would be the executive leadership of various organizations and associations. Great, fine. So that led to, well, who are these people and what's the makeup of these people? And they're well-intentioned people for sure. But the more I looked at it, the more, as you mentioned, the cognitive dissonance is that, hey, these people don't look like me. Not that they're bad people, but how can you grow the game and ask for participation from a group of folks, and those group of folks are not represented in the policy making and management of the very game you want to grow? So it was kind of a conundrum for me. And I'll tell you, Jay and Don, that I prayed quite a bit about doing this article properly and fairly. It was not meant to beat golf over the head, but at the same time, it was meant to kind of smack you in the face and say, wake up, wake up. You cannot do what you say you want to do and not take appropriate action on the other side. So that was the genesis of it. And it did have an effect. I'm glad it did for the positive. Certainly I heard you were one of the first people I heard from. in that. Many people have congratulated me. I've had nothing but positive statements about that article over time, and I'm glad. And I would say for many people that became either their segue or their awakening on I as a CEO or COO, I need to do something, and now figuring out what that something is. And so I'm pleased with that.
Good. For us and me, when you interviewed me for that article, certainly, and I reflected that there's still so much work to be done.
Sure.
At the time, and this was 2009. I think it was fall of 2019.
That's right. November 2019. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at the time, NGCOA leadership and staff, we were incubating an idea at the time to have maybe a women's leadership conference for the industry. And, it was the women on my staff that said, Jay, what if we did this for, women in the industry to cultivate leadership and to, create some bonds and all of these things? It's kind of our contribution to the diversity question in our industry. I thought, oh, what a great idea. So we started working on that. And I recall, I swear timing is everything. And maybe this is serendipity, but even just before you published that article, Jim, I remember thinking, you came into my head, you and Craig Kirby and others thinking, I'm going to see these folks at the PGA show here in a few months, probably. Right. And I'm going to be excited to tell them about this women's initiative. And all I could think of was the prospect of you saying to me, what about Black folks? What about the African Americans out there? What about us? Why women? Yeah. And then I thought, I had no answer to that question. I no good answer. I thought, well, all right, let's pivot. Why don't we just make this about the greater diversity question, this event concept that we were brewing up?
For sure.
Then you published your article, which was glaring. And then I brought all that to our board of directors, and Don was on our board of directors at the time, and said, hey, guys, what if we pivot this event and make it about greater diversity? And of course, they were all in. They said yes. Mm-hmm. And so, actually this fall, we're going to be hosting that event called Lead Golf Together, where the industry leadership is going to come together to address the very question that you're talking about, the leadership table, and how do we advance and accelerate progress on that question, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So your article certainly had a cascading effect, Jim, and I appreciate that you wrote it. And there's work to be done, and we're doing it on that leadership table question. So I'm excited about that. But I do have to, Don's a PGA pro and PGA, executive here, an officer, and at the PGA show that there've been some diversity meetings and so forth, and then all of a sudden we hear about Jim Beatty going off and saying, we're gonna have this event, African American Golfer Expo and Forum.
All right.
And I got to ask you, what was the impetus for that? And I got a couple follow-up questions about it. So tell us about the event and why you decided to do it.
Sure. The genesis of that was in fact the PGA show. Many people like myself, Black, white, or otherwise, doesn't matter, love going to the PGA show. Excellent time there. It's like Christmas and everything all in one. It's a learning experience, and you just can't get enough of it in a week. I could spend a month there if my wife would allow me to just be at the PGA show. So, and having gone to several of them and learning something each and every time. However, with that being said, the attention that was being paid, at least in my mind and in a few others' mind, to the needs of the African-American golfer, male and female, was not being addressed there in terms of industry significance, industry trends, and what have you. And it just struck me that, listen, we all want to grow the game. So I think it's time, and I checked with the people whose opinion I value as well. That look, why don't we have a show, a forum to bring out the best of golf, but put it on a basis and on a level that addresses African Americans. And it is not that we are in odds by any means with the sport and the industry, but there are some activities that are germane to us that you need to hear from our standpoint. So the African American Golf Expo and Forum was born out of that idea. And I'm pleased to say that the industry reception to that has been tremendous. I'm very pleased and very grateful and very humbled for it. But it's an opportunity for industry leadership to get together with everyday people, golfers, and individuals, some new to the game, some mature in the game, some that are just taking up the game, to understand, and not just the game, but the business of golf. How many times have we heard that the $84 billion golf industry exists? I don't challenge that. How much of that is being directed? How much of that is benefiting African Americans? And all of the anecdotal information I would have would suggest certainly less than 3%, and I would guess less than 1%. So there's ample opportunity for golf to grow. And look at it another way. Your membership, golf course owners, today, of the 24.3 million golfers out there, and the estimate is that some 3 million are African Americans. If that were to double the number of African Americans out there, and the additional information suggests that the typical, or I'd say the median of African American golfers probably spent in excess of $5,000 a year. You do the math. I saw you do the math on the 36th hole, but do the math on this and say all of a sudden now this thing could swell. There could be hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars more in revenue for golf course owners, in many respects, in terms of rounds of play, equipment sold. Again, you and Don do the math. So it's like, okay, let's have a forum and talk about this, and not gripe about it, but talk about it in a fashion that allows for and engenders answers and direction. And that's what this expo will be all about. 4 days, August 21 through 24. I say Atlanta is actually in Marietta, northwest of Atlanta there, but that's great. You can register at aagolfexpo.com as shown on the screen here. And we want white folks, black folks, brown folks, all folks to come, listen from our standpoint. We want to listen to your viewpoint, and we want to leave there connected and in sync with each other to go out and make this game all it can be, and make certain that we can make golf your thing for everybody.
I love it, Jim. I got to say, I've been at NGCOA I was here from 97 to 2007, came back. I've been here for almost 6 years since. And in that time, when the diversity question came up among leadership or what have you, what is our role here as NGCOA? We're golf course owners.
Yeah.
We always struggled with, what do we do? Are we going to go out there and recruit, African Americans to own golf courses? Like how do we didn't even know the first step to take, knowing that, even today we've got like less than 10 golf courses in the United States that are, wholly owned by African Americans. Right. In the industry of, when you look at, thousands of public golf courses, especially, right, that we got less than 10. It was always kind of a head scratcher, Jim, and we just didn't know even the first step to take. And I think that just kind of caused a bit of paralysis on that question for NGCOA.
Right. That
you're providing a stage for us to come to, a place for us to come to, of enthusiasts from the Black community. That NGCOA was your first sponsor of this, and we're going to have a class there on what it means to own a golf course. In that book that we just published, So You Want to Own a Golf Course, we're going to be handing out QR codes to everybody to download that stuff. So to me, this is an intersection that we didn't even know how. You've provided us a place to have this intersection, and we wouldn't have even known what to do. So I'm grateful for that there's a first step that we can take that is incredibly relevant to our mission, which is to support golf course ownership, right? So I'm thankful for that. So I do have to ask you the question though. Some might say in the industry that having an African American, event is more dividing than coming together. So what do you say to them? Just optically, like, oh, we're breaking away.
No, absolutely not. If anything, it's like a meiosis and mitosis, as you would say in biology. It divides and it gets bigger. It does not shrink. It expands. And so today we have the African American Golf Expo and Forum. Next year there may be the Latina Golf Expo and Forum. That the more you pay attention to the incremental constituency of who's playing this game, it acts as a multiplier of for the entire industry. It does not divide and shrink. it expands. And that's what we want to see. All it says is that you as an industry, you're paying attention to me and my needs. I'm not in a homogeneous environment. I'm in an environment that's unique to me, and you're paying attention to me. That engenders product loyalty that says whether you're Titleist, whether you're Ping, whether you're Callaway, you're paying attention to me as a Black golfer, as a Latino golfer, as an LGBTQ golfer. That means something, and I'm going to reward you as a manufacturer, as a retailer, by buying more from you because you're paying attention to me. It's true in every other industry. They pay attention to who is in their market and they cater to them. And what happened? Sales growth.
Yeah.
Nothing, not rocket science, sales growth.
No, I appreciate that perspective. And I got to give props to the PGA of America, actually recently published, and we promoted on our website the first inclusion guidelines for golf course operators, for golf course operations. It's just
toolkit. Yeah.
That's never been published in this way. And the PGA, and you can probably speak to this, Don, they're doing a lot of work in this realm, and so I think there's a lot of entities in our industry that are doing good work and new work to be done. But I really love that metaphor, Jim, about these cells dividing and expanding and the organism gets bigger, right? So, yeah. But Don, maybe you can give a word on what's happening, what the PGA is contributing to.
Well, I mean, we're certainly trying, right? I think Sandy Cross, Lynette Carty are doing amazing things. And, PGA lead, I've seen that affect the governance of the PGA of America across the nation already. A lot of our PGA lead graduates have now become the secretary of a section. Howie Pruitt was one of our PGA lead original people, and now he's the president of the Pacific Northwest section. He's actually on the board of control for the PGA of America, which is a tough spot to get. But there he sits, and he's doing a great job. And I think as people see it, then they know they can be it. So it's going to take a little bit, but we're being intentional about it, and we're trying. These 6 working groups with the diversity inclusion, really excited about that. PGA Reach, and underneath that is PGA Works, right? That's our internship program to get people knowing that you don't have to be great at golf to have a job in the golf industry. So I like what Jim's saying, just because I think, we've talked about it before. You can be very welcoming and go, hey, I've never told anybody not to show up. Okay. That is not how change happens. We have to be intentional about inviting people. And I think what Jim's doing, bringing people there, saying, here's the issue. And let's just talk about it. And let's figure out how we can divide and conquer this thing. Because I think once we get this momentum, it just was so long. We just kind of sat there, and there were some people working really hard, but they just couldn't get the rolling. I truly believe now it is starting to roll. It's starting to get over the top there. And once we get that going, I think the businesses will start to see, wow, I've never even thought about how to, advertise to an African-American or to a Hispanic golfer. I've never been on those. Well, there are specific areas you can go if that's what you're looking to do. And at the end of the day, if you're a golfer and you truly know what golf can do for a family, for someone who's suicidal, just to get out and be fit, then you're going to want to share that solution with everybody, right? If we have the antidote for depression, we have the antidote for depression or for apathy. If we have the antidote just to bring families back together and get people out on the golf course having a good time, why wouldn't we share that with everybody? And I think that's all that Jim's doing. Is it's, it does become a little frustrating sometimes when you're like, how come we're not getting everybody? Well, I think it's because our doors were open, but we didn't invite anybody.
There you go, Don.
Invite, and that's going to get exciting.
That's exactly the case. The more invitations that are sent out, I think the more response we're going to get as an industry. A lot of barriers will be eliminated. A lot of stereotypes will be eliminated. As you said, Don, many people have thought that, well, I need to be good at golf, or I need to be a golfer to work in the industry. No, that's not the case. Clearly, it certainly in my case is not. That's not the case at all. Jay, just barely. But anyway, but in any event, we all love this game and this sport. And I, along with people like me, all we're doing is putting forward the feelings and trying to embrace the spirit of folks that have come before us. The Charlie Siffers, the Lee Elders, the Teddy Rose, the John Shippens, you name it, that every time we talk, we know that we're simply trying to put forth and go forward with what they had to endure. That gives me and others like me, Mark Lowry, Dr. Michael Cooper, Craig Kirby, Clemmy Perry, DeBert Cook. It's all, I'm gonna leave people out, but you get the message that we have a responsibility as leaders, as Black leaders, to put forth the best foot we can and to go forward with this and help grow this game that we all love, because it can provide education, networking opportunities for jobs, careers, internships, supplier diversity. We've had seminars on supplier diversity. Folks, all this is going to do is grow the game. There's no divide and shrink. It's pay attention to these cells, another metaphor here, and grow. That's what it is.
I'll close out with this. It may sound hyperbolic, but I think what everybody's saying here in many ways is that golf in a strange way can actually be an antidote to things like racism and breaking down those walls. So what else in life is quite like golf, where you'll get paired up with complete strangers, and by the end of 4 hours, you could be lifelong friends. I mean, that's happened to me. Complete strangers. Absolutely. That by the time we're done with a round of golf, there's nothing like that quite like that in life. There's nothing that's comparable, honestly. And so what better than a sport and a game to bring people together? Because I really think, the antidote to racism and the challenges that we have in diversity and inclusion is simply getting to know on a personal level people that are different from you. Once you break bread and get to know and bond with people, all of a sudden you start looking at all of these issues in a very different prism. Whether you're approaching your job, your relationships, wherever you are, you start looking at things differently, and you start seeing the intricacies of and how complex racism can be when you get to know people, and then your mind opens to being better and fixing things and being an ally and helping. And so I think what you're doing, Jim, is great. And we're going to be there in August. I'll be there with Renee Flowers on our staff. Look forward to spending time with you guys, and maybe planting a seed in more African Americans to get out there and own a golf course, because there's always some for sale.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're going to help you find some investors and help grow the game from that standpoint as well too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show this month, Jim. Look forward to seeing you in less than 2 months, I guess. And Don, as always, great to see you. And in your travels, we love hearing about where you are. Who knows where you'll be next month when we have our show. But everybody watching, have a great afternoon. And we'll see you in July. Thanks for tuning in.
Keep it in the short grass.
Hey, amen, brother.
All right.
All right. Okay.